So for the past 2 months, I set out to find out if this little autonomous robot tank can do all of my lawn chores for me, from mowing to leaf blowing to snow blowing to plowing wet snow, and even autonomously following me while it tows a trailer full of mulch that I'm throwing in my landscaping. It's really a promising design. Now, when I first saw it announced, I was really excited. Like, I had to have this and find out if it was actually living up to the claims that the company made. I mean, there are a lot of positives. It autonomously does all of that stuff I mentioned. It's very powerful. It never gets stuck because, like, I mean, look at the treads. It's basically a tank. And best of all, it's way quieter than a zero turn, a lawnmower, a snow blower, or a leaf blower. So now that it's been 2 months, I want to talk about what this does well, what it doesn't do well, how good or bad it is, and ultimately whether or not you should buy one. Now, as always, full disclosure, this video is not sponsored by Yarbo. I know they sponsor a lot of content out there, and a lot of the sponsored content, great content, but it focuses on just one aspect of it, just the snowblower, just the mower. So I wanted to make a full comprehensive video. Now, Yarbo did send over a unit that I could test, but they have no editorial influence. They don't get to see this video, and they have no input on this video at all. As you'll see in this video, I'm covering both pros and cons. So this is a full honest review of my take on the Yarbo. So I'm gonna go through this video one attachment at a time, starting off with the leaf blower. So the way this works is you have the Yarbo Core, the little thing with the tank treads on it. On the front, it has 4 pins and a little connector. So you lift on, like the leaf blower, for example, and just push it in, it'll click, 2 little tabs go down, it's locked on there, and then you can put on the little connector for the cable. It has lights all the way around this, so it can run at night or in the day, has a blinking light on top for safety, and it has an emergency stop button in case anything goes wrong. So when you first set it up, you can map your spaces, and you can have multiple spaces, of course, for your lawnmower versus your snowblower, obviously. But with the leaf blower here, what you'll do is you'll just drive around the perimeter with this attachment on. It has cameras on the front. It navigates using mainly the GPS and the RTK station that you mount on like your deck or your house or whatever, but it does also have cameras for obstacle avoidance. So you'll map the whole perimeter, you'll map the zones you don't want it to go in, so around like, you know, landscaping or fruit trees or whatever, and then you can choose on the map where you want the leaves to be blown. So blow them all over to this side on this perimeter, and then you just let it go. It'll go through, it'll do the whole thing, and it worked surprisingly well. Like, I was really impressed by how good it was at moving all my leaves from one spot over to another while I was inside just doing whatever. Like, this is something that I usually hate doing as a chore. The blower angle is also adjustable, and that's true with all of these. It can actually lift and lower using the core unit. Like, it just has a lot of power to lift that up. So if you wanted to blow, say, in like taller grass, you wanted to blow a little higher, you can do that. And you can actually also attach a manual hose, so you don't need to also own a leaf blower. If there's like, maybe you want to blow off the top of, I don't know, something that this is not going to drive up onto, you just connect the hose and use it like a regular leaf blower. One drawback is that I noticed this doesn't seem to have follow me mode for the leaf blower. I'll talk about follow me mode later, but the ability to have this like autonomously follow you while you blow, maybe in your landscaping, for example, with the leaf blower would be really nice. Instead, you have to control it with your phone or with the little Xbox style controller to get this to go where you want it to. It is, like I said, much quieter than a gas-powered leaf blower, and it has 3 levels of blowing, so if you want it to be really quiet, you can go on level 1. It doesn't blow as hard, obviously, then, but still, in a silent environment, this is really nice. A couple quirks though. I noticed it doesn't like driving backwards while blowing, obviously, I guess for safety reasons. So as a result, it ends up turning around a lot, which can tear up your grass. This should have a 3-point turn. It does with the lawnmower and with the follow me mode, but I noticed with the snowblower, it just kind of 0 turns, so it'll just like force itself around. And if you're doing the leaf blowing during like dormant season, which is usually when you are, so the grass is a little more sensitive, you could be tearing up your grass a little bit, or at least I tore up some of my grass. Perhaps that'll be an update in the future, but right now it's something I noticed. Also, in small areas, the leaf blower can, obviously can only blow on one side, and it doesn't drive backwards, so you have to do a lot of the same passes. And in a smaller area where that pass might only be, 10 feet long, it doesn't turn on the leaf blower and then drive. It drives and then turns on the leaf blower, so it takes maybe 5 or 6 feet until it gets up to speed and actually starts moving leaves. So you can have some spaces that it doesn't really do a good job of moving the leaves. But in a larger space where, it's like 100 feet long or more, the passes are no problem, and it does a great job pushing everything over. Also, the battery life is incredibly impressive. This was able to blow half my yard, so maybe like 5,000 square feet, and it only used about 15% of its battery. Also, during a run, if you want to change anything like the blower power, you can do that in the app. It'll pause it and you can change the settings and then resume it. But I don't think there's a way to map it to blow more or less in different areas. So if I wanted to blow like full force in the middle, get all my leaves over, but I don't want it to like really disturb my mulch and blow soft on the edges, at least right now, I don't see a way to do that in the app. And then when it's done, it drives back and autonomously parks itself on the wireless charging base, which is awesome. But if you wanted to manually charge it, you could also, there's an included cable in the box. You just plug it in the back. So if you wanted to park it like in your garage, for example, you could do that. Now, moving on to the next attachment, the lawnmower. This is what I spent the most time with. And again, this thing absolutely never gets stuck. I've tested a lot of robot lawnmowers. Many of them get stuck on hills or potholes or anything that's not a perfect lawn. Like, you can't make this thing get stuck. It's an absolute beast. It's able to cut wet grass, taller grass, grass in tough terrain. It cuts up to 4 inches or down to 1.2 inches. So a lot of versatility on how you want your grass to look. And it claims it can manage up to 6 acres of coverage. I think that's if it's running pretty much constantly, like one day do 2 acres, the next day do 2 acres. Like, I think that's kind of how they figure that. I would say you could probably comfortably do like 2 acres with this. It does mow very, very quickly, so I think that's impressive compared to other mowers. I have no doubt that you can cover a lot of territory, and it's nice that they don't limit you in the app like Segway Navimo does, where they say you can have 10,000 square feet. And even if they're able to do more, they just want you to buy the more expensive model, and they don't let you. So it's good that Yarbo doesn't do that. It does leave some tracks in the lawn because it is a heavy device. Of course, it's kind of spread out over the entire length of the track, so it's not leaving dents in my grass or really damaging it, but it does give you some nice little lawn lines similar to what you'd get with a lawnmower or a zero turn, for example. And the wide cutting deck means that, again, you're getting even more defined lawn lines compared to other robot lawnmowers, but it's not going to be as formed to the surface as a really small mower with just a little single cutting deck in there. Honestly, I think it's kind of a positive. I think the lawn looks really good with this. It's also very customizable in the app. So for example, you can choose the moving speed for how fast it's going through your mowing. You can choose when it's going to undock and redock for your battery level. You can choose if you want a zero turn for a faster mow or a smart turn to save your grass a little bit. You can enable or disable mowing in the rain. It does have a rain detection sensor on there. And then if I go to area settings, you can have multiple areas, and you can see it's a complex area. If I tap on the little settings icon, we can change settings just for that. So we can have, for example, do we want it to be sensitive? Do we want it to be gentle when it sees obstacles? We can choose the mowing height. We could say, is that the target height? And I want you to cut and gradually get down to that height, so it's a little safer for the grass. You can choose the route pattern. You can tap on advanced settings and again, have U-turn, smart turn, or zero turn. You can choose the overlap. So if you wanted to have wider spacing or if you want it to really overlap a lot. And you can choose what the rotation is. So every time it mows, it'll rotate 10 degrees. So you're not always, driving tracks into your grass. Really just a ton of settings you can change here. You can have, do you want it to mow along no-go zones? That's a perimeter. How many perimeter mowing laps do you want? What kind of boundary setback do you want? So you are gonna have to go around with trimmer, weed whacker, and get, right here I have 4 inches towards the edge. But you can move that down if you want this to kind of drive onto maybe a sidewalk or your driveway, and you don't have to worry as much about weed whacking there. Now the 3-point turn does not always work perfectly. I've noticed a number of times it'll try a 3-point turn and then it'll just give up and suddenly do a zero turn and kind of tear up the grass a little bit. Also, sometimes it does some funky turns for kind of like no reason, just because the map is not perfectly straight and it can't figure out what it should do. Like right around my one fence, it'll drive and kind of just keep doing the same pattern maybe 3 or 4 times and then drive around it. And I don't know why it does that. Also, if you forget to take the hitch off, as I did one time, it'll totally ignore that it has a hitch on the back and just aggressively drive into everything. And keep in mind, this is rated to tow 3,500 pounds. I'll talk about that later, but it's powerful, so it can really mess up your fence if you have the hitch still on there. Also, it doesn't seem to use the cameras that much. There was just an update a couple days ago that gives you much better obstacle avoidance, but it still gets lost sometimes. It really relies heavily on GPS. So there's this one spot next to my house, next to a fence, that it always gets lost. Like it always stops in this one spot, even though The RTK station is very visible, even though it's really easy to see if it used its cameras. There are walls there and it can navigate back, but it loses GPS right here and just sits there all day until I come back and move it. So this is the biggest frustration with me with this device right here. Like I've used the Teramo, for example, and that doesn't even have an RTK, it doesn't have GPS, it just uses cameras and it never gets lost anywhere on my lawn. So the fact that the Yarbo has so many cameras, like I wish they would use them to navigate as a backup to get back to at least known territory if it loses GPS. Now, one thing to note is I understand it has the larger RTK antenna on here because that's for winter. Honestly, you're supposed to switch out for the shorter one in the summer when you have the mower on there. One, I thought that was kind of annoying, and two, I lost the small antenna, so I just have the tall one on there, and it seems to work fine. That really shouldn't be affecting the GPS signal, in my opinion, but again, that's something that is worth noting. A little asterisk right there with how this is running. Now, the rain sensor on here works kind of well enough, but it does appear to be mildly corroded already, even after just a couple months. You can see it's a little bit white on the top. Maybe I'll zoom in and show you some B-roll of this. Other things to note, you can map different areas and have multiple routines. So map one area, call this like lawn 1 or the front or the back lawn, or maybe you could even have it like your neighbor's lawn and your lawn, and maybe you're splitting the cost of this between several different neighbors. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, I haven't seen a maintenance reminder yet for the blade health. These are like little razor blades on the bottom. That's the way most robot lawnmowers work. And so you have to replace them. They're very cheap to replace, but you have to replace them every, I don't know, maybe 30, 45 days, depending on how much you're using them. Overall with the lawn mowing though, incredibly powerful, absolutely never gets physically stuck, and it leaves my grass looking very, very nice. And aside from the few quirks like the random zero turning and the getting lost in that one little corner, which I just cut that corner out of my mowing routine, I would say this is actually a big success for Yarbo. It does a great job of mowing. Moving on to the snowblower, there is a snow plow attachment on this as well. So if you have very shallow, wet snow, you can just snap on the snow plow, it'll plow around. But if you're using it as a snowblower, you can see you're able to adjust the chute, the angle of the chute. Again, you're able to lift it and lower it using the Yarbo Core. It has a snow clearing stick as well. Obviously, you don't want to stick your hands in there. It has a lot of power, and it has multiple different levels of power for the snowblower. It also has heated cameras, so it should stay clear in any environment, and it has studded snow tracks that just look so meaty. Like, I think that this should absolutely not get stuck on any ice or snow. I think that's really impressive. Unfortunately, I got this after the last snowfall, so I didn't test the snowfall with this and how well it does, but from what I've seen, it does a pretty good job here. And then moving into the smart module, that's what they call it, just the other attachment that goes on the core, and it keeps it smaller. That's what really I would recommend using if you are, just towing around a trailer, and this is actually really powerful. So the idea here is that you have a little lawn trailer to pull around, like grass clippings or mulch or dirt or whatever you're doing with that, maybe firewood, for example. It's allegedly rated to tow up to like 3,500 pounds. The weight you can put on the Yarbo is going to be the limit, of course, so I just put a little strap between this and like a little boat trailer and tried pulling it in the grass, and it wasn't able to do that because even though there's a lot of power on the Yarbo, there's not enough weight to have any kind of real friction and pull like, 1,000 pounds or more. I think more likely if you have just a simple little yard trailer, this should be doing just fine to pull a really surprising amount of weight, I would say. If you're sitting in the trailer with a bunch of mulch, it'll still pull you almost definitely very well. Now, Follow Me uses the cameras in the front to kind of just look at you, and it'll follow you around wherever you go. So if I'm shoveling mulch, I'll just have it follow me. And then the trick is you step very quickly out of its sight. So you step over it, for example, to get back to the trailer. Otherwise, it's going to like try to turn around and follow you everywhere. I wish there was, and I know the community says the same thing on this. I wish there was a different style hitch where it hitched on the top, maybe like a gooseneck style. I think that would, one, give you more traction by putting more weight on the Yarbo, and two, it would be really beneficial for the Yarbo, like turning around and backing up your trailer in different directions, as opposed to having it on the back where it kind of can only pull, and it has a very limited turning radius then. But again, like, what other robot lawnmower can tow a trailer? Like, this is basically a full-blown, like, John Deere lawn tractor. Like, this is doing a lot more than, honestly, I'm very happy they added that on there. Also, like I said, this thing never gets stuck. I took just the smart module and just drove it around with the remote. I drove it over a small pile of bricks into my garden, through the garden, absolutely no problem. This thing just doesn't get stuck. So if you have any kind of rough terrain in your lawn, if you have like a really steep edge that is either maybe dangerous to mow or everything else just gets stuck, yeah, the Yarbo is almost definitely not going to get stuck there. There's also a lot of other cool features they added, like patrol mode, which you can use this to check up on your lawn using the cameras when you're traveling or away from home. And there are some other things that they announced that will be coming out in the future. Now, a few additional notes here, some pros, some cons that I found. Kind of a mixed bag here on setup. I like that the setup was really organized, but man, it took a while to set this thing up. There was a lot of antenna to attach. You had to put the battery in. You had to, really do a lot with this when you're setting it up. So it took a while, but the setup was very organized. The bags were all labeled, and I got it done just fine. There's also a speaker on the inside of this. Eventually, they said you can use it as a Bluetooth speaker, but at least right now, it's just used to like yell at you when it's charging or when it runs into something. Like, it's surprisingly loud when it says it's charging or ready to charge. I also wish there was a go back to the dock feature when you're manually driving it around. Instead, you have to kind of manually back it up and really get it just right, or else it won't charge. But if it's doing an automated routine, it does come back automatically. So it knows how to. I just wish the controller had a button that would do that. Also, the community, it's awesome around this. A lot of great people who like this device, who've been tinkering with it, making the gooseneck hitch like I mentioned. But a lot of people in the community have been very disappointed by how slow some of the feature rollouts have been. There's a lot of promises that kind of feel like Tesla full self-driving that just haven't really come yet. So they promised an edger, a trimmer, a Bluetooth speaker, and a lot of other things that just haven't rolled out to this yet. Now, a positive, like I was talking about with the sharing with your neighbors, you can invite up to 6 people to have access to the device. So this could be your family members, this could be your neighbors, or you could temporarily grant someone access if, for example, you're traveling and you need your neighbor to help out, like blowing the snow off your driveway or something like that. And considering the price of this, splitting between neighbors, I think kind of makes a lot of sense. It's cool that they really do enable you to do this. Also, as far as theft goes, Yarbo has an alarm. I mentioned the speaker is really loud on the inside, so it'll beep if someone takes it beyond the perimeter that it's supposed to go, and you should be getting a phone notification as well. But it does not have LTE, so I'm not sure how you would find it again if anyone took it. Considering the weight of this, though, it does kind of have to be a planned theft, so you really kind of need to, they would have to pull up with a truck, because it's a heavy device. It's probably going to be a 2-person lift to take this away. But nonetheless, it's something that I would worry about considering the price of this investment. Maybe at the very least, hide an AirTag in there. That could maybe help. Also, even in the 2 months I've had this, there have been a ton of improvements in the app and in the device, but something I would like to see would be adjustments on the map where you can just draw a straight line, maybe to divide a space into 2 spaces, or fix a line that when you drove it, it was kind of squiggly. I think there's a lot of things that could be fixed with the mapping on the app. But as it is, I can't say it's bad. It's definitely better than most other robot mowers in terms of the app. And also, the attachments, this is not a negative or a positive. Actually, it is a positive and a negative, I could say. The attachments are heavy. I would argue they feel very sturdy, very well made, a lot of metal in them, not like a little plastic flimsy piece of crap. So the positive is that I think it's going to be really durable. The negative is that it's going to be a little harder to put these attachments on for some. It's definitely heavier, and if the device died, it would be very difficult to move it back to the base without having a second person to carry it, or disassembling the attachments and taking them over separately. Oh, finally, the price. This was originally $6,900 for all 4 attachments. No small chunk of change, but thanks to the recent tariffs, at least as of making this video, the price has increased to $9,600, and that's, again, the core, the smart module, the leaf blower, the snow blower, and the lawnmower, and the hitch, and a couple other things as well. But in summary, this thing is fast, this is powerful, this is versatile, and it's improving very quickly with feature and software updates pretty much every week or every month. It's bulky and sometimes bad for some things, definitely less nimble, it can tear up your grass a little bit in some environments, and sometimes it acts a little strangely. But ultimately, is this going to be good or bad? Well, I would say for an intricate yard, a smaller yard, there are better robot mowers out there that are lighter, that are cheaper, and just kind of like the Teramo or the Segway, for example, that'll just go around your grass and cut it just fine. But for a larger space, or anyone with a lot of other yard maintenance, you want that leaf blower, you want that snow blower. I mean, the hardware on this is absolutely fantastic. This thing is built like a tank. quite literally, and there's a lot of cool product improvements in the pipeline, like that edger and the trimmer, as I mentioned. Also, lastly, the community is absolutely incredible, so that's a huge positive for Yarbo as well. But let me know what you think about the Yarbo in the comments below. I will be making a comparison. Let me know what I should compare this to, besides the Segway and the Teramo and maybe the Man Motion as well, and I'll be making that video next. So I'm Mike O'Brien, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that next video.